right. That's looking good. We are back at the Husky Ranch. Gonna be nice and chill today. Kind of cloudy weather. Oh, little pink pony. You are in the running for the subscriber giveaway. And I did a test earlier and you actually drew the test. I got 11 subscribers at the moment. But you asked, what colors are we cooking up today? I'm actually gonna pull out my Cone 6 glazes and kind of go through these. We're gonna load up another test kiln tonight, so we're gonna continue to work through these. I think we'll definitely keep working with the Bazooka Bubblegum Pink. I want to see what this looks like next to our juicy Celadon Blue. Like, I was dreaming about that combo last night. Been thinking about it. Let's see. Yeah, like that. So the statistics of true random is that the outcome of the previous does not affect. So you still have just as much of a probability to win. I think statistically speaking, it's maybe less likely. Hey, what's up, Ramen Doodle? Welcome back. So it is just as likely that Ramen Doodle will win the drawing as any other person, I guess. With 11 names at the moment, and then we're gonna give it what, an hour, 55 minutes. If anybody else wants to subscribe up, they'll get a choice. Anything on my website. It's basically something small that I can ship fairly inexpensively. Murphy disagrees. All right. So again, the weather outside kind of overcast, kind of chilly. It's just been sort of a chill day. I didn't have work at all today, and so I was tying up some flies earlier. And I want to show these off because I think they're pretty hot. These are some of the flies that I was tying up. Sparkly, tasty little herring looking patterns. I was gonna stream that, but I just wanted to have a chill afternoon. So we're gonna continue ahead. Have a nice chill glazing afternoon. I don't even have a goal as to how many pieces. I think I'm just gonna feel it out and see what's going on. Oh look! It's a Duke! Duke the dog! Stopping by. What are you doing, bud? Sniffing things? Can you sit? Huh? Can you sit? Oh, what a good boy. We should get you a treat, huh? We should get you a treat. Ooh. All right, buds, sit. Can you sit? You gotta sit. Oh. He loves this stuff. All right, back. And then one more. Sit. How about a shake? You shake? Oh, how about your other hand? Oh, good boy. Ramen Doodle. Duke loves you. Arts Plunge, that's a good idea. And in fact, I had that idea to do a webcam right out in front of my house because there's constantly salmon trolling boats, and I mean recreational boats. There's probably 200 or 300 boats that pass by the front of my house. We live near the entrance to the main harbor in town. And not to mention there's a beautiful volcano. Yep, he's a pretty great boy. Okay, so let's start glazing some pots here. And of course, if you guys want to see any particular combinations as I'm going around and doing these, get a 24/7 stream. We are. The goal is to have the Discord going this weekend so that we can have people hanging out. We can have a place outside of the stream to take questions, comments, chats, stuff like that. Duke's sniffing around. Oh man, I wish Duke was that trained. He's pretty good. He can sit and he can. We trained him to back up because he's such a incorrigible beggar when we're eating. So it's actually a pretty useful thing to get him to back up. And then he shakes and he lays down. The one command that I wish he really would do every time is come. And he'll do it when there's a treat and when he's inside, but when we're out and about walking, he doesn't like to come. Which I can't blame him. That is kind of a husky characteristic. So we're going to go over to the wear cart and we're going to pull some pots kind of randomly. See what we want to glaze. Kind of thinking we should do some of the little sweeties. So we'll just pick a couple of these. How about 6? We'll do 6 of them. What do you think? You want to pick one, Duke? All right, so we got 6 little babies. And then I did want to do, got these little guys. I did want to do some mugs today. And since we've got a 5-gallon bucket of our sapphire blue, we'll do some mugs. We'll do some of the squares and one of the stripes, and how about the line? All right. So these were 4 mugs that we made on stream there. Do those guys. And we're just gonna make it up as we go along today. I sometimes will have a pretty specific plan about what I want to do, how I want to glaze, but I don't have one today. We'll do one of our coffee pour overs. Kind of a nice piece. We'll do a few more of our little bowls. We'll pick out some of the bigger ones. Three. Nice even number there. Oh, you like coffee pour overs? Maybe we'll do one of the pour overs in pink. Okay. We'll grab a couple of cups too. We'll do some glaze action. All right, so that looks good. That's a nice little, I think that's gonna be a nice little kiln load. The pour over should be pink and blue. All right, we'll do it. We'll do it up. I like it. Like where your head is at. Okay, so those are our pots. Now for glazes, we've still got a little bit of the sapphire blue that I had previously mixed. So we got that. Then I've got some black. I'm not sure what specific, I have it written down somewhere, the recipe for this black glaze. When we look at the results, probably on stream tomorrow, I'll give you the recipe for the black. I don't have an example of it around here, other than this one. There is the combination of the black and the blue. So we got some of the black, and then we've got some of the purple. This is some of the Seattle Pottery purple glaze, which is that one right there. We got a whole 5-gallon bucket of that. So got that little guy. So, and then we've got all these little ones, all these little batches of glaze. And one of the ones that we were really intrigued by was, let's move the camera. Over here into the light. Go. Yeah, one of the ones that we were really intrigued with yesterday was this glaze right here. And if you see how speckly that is, that one is a mixture of these two right here. So one of our test tiles is going to be playing with overlaps. So rather than mixing these two straight together, we're gonna do a layer of glazes, and I'm gonna find out what they look like, one on top of the other, and then vice versa. So that'll be one of our test tiles, and then we've got some test tiles, stack of those right there, and that's gonna be our kiln load. We'll probably do, I don't know, maybe 10 test tiles or so. We'll just figure it out as we go. And I think for the mugs, those will be pretty straight ahead. And anytime I'm glazing, I like to knock out the really simple, easy stuff right away. So I'll go through, and whatever glaze is gonna get used the most, right? So usually with cone 6, it's like my Celadon blue glaze. I'll get everything. It's just going to be one dip. Pick all that out. And then I like to save the most complicated stuff for the end. So here's a glaze tip. This is my drill, my paint mixer, and I'm too lazy to walk over there and get my drill, but you can just put this in your hand and roll it, and that actually does a really good job of mixing. So if your drill battery is dead, this does a pretty good job of mixing, and it has the added benefit of not putting a bunch of bubbles, like frothing up your glaze, which can sometimes be a problem. I've worked in one studio where they had little like toilet bowl brushes that they would use to stir. They had like a whole stack of them, and those were kind of handy for getting chunks up off the bottom. You know, some of these glazes will like really settle out, and so having one of those little whisks around, or toilet brush, obviously dedicated to glazes. This is probably a tip I've given before, but keeping around a spray bottle. I've got this one, the 3X, the Magnum sprayer. And then I've got this other one, which is just a normal spray bottle. This is a tool that every single ceramic studio needs, without a doubt. You think that's weird, having the toilet brushes? And glaze tip already lost count. They actually worked really, really well, the toilet brushes, I will say. I wanted to hate it as soon as I saw them. I was like, God, that's so silly. It's like a idea you would think of literally while you're sitting on the toilet. But they do work really well for cleaning the sides of buckets. Okay, and I just used the spray bottle. One of the added benefits of using a spray bottle is that you can add water incrementally. This 3X, that adds about 5 cubic centimeters of water per spray, whereas this one does about 1.5 cc's of water per spray. And I know that because I've used both of them so much in the glaze lab. And I think on stream the other day, I had mentioned that it's always good to wear gloves, protect your hands. Not necessarily because of the toxicity, but just because constantly washing your hands can kind of really beat them up. And so we'll go with some blue gloves today. I like getting these at Harbor Freight, where I get disposable gloves and sandpaper and drill bits. And actually I buy my spray guns there. Harbor Freight has a really good high volume, low pressure spray gun. They look like these. They look like this. And that's even a nice twitch purple color. But yeah, this hooks up to air hose, an air compressor. I spray a lot of glazes, especially with overlaps. At some point, we're going to be doing a video about spraying glazes and how I like to do it and tips and tricks on that. Not today. I built, for this studio, I built a ghetto spray booth. And so it hooks in the exhaust system, the vent for my kilns. I built it from scratch with just stuff that I could find at the hardware store. And so I built it sort of interchangeable. And so I built a spray booth that I can take the hose from the vent and hook it onto the spray booth. So I just took a big box and cut a hole in it and lined it with styrofoam, and that's my spray booth with a little hole in the top. Works really well. Just stick a banding wheel in there and you're good. But so we're gonna go through on these. Do some glazing. Get my glaze tongs. There we go. Looks perfect. Really interested to see this glaze kind of break. Hopefully we'll get some areas of thick and thin. And what I'm really interested is seeing that greenish part. The green tinge from thick to thin. If the camera can focus in on that. See how it's got that green edge? I really want to see that green edge highlighting all the details. So an astute observer might notice that I did not put any wax resist on the bottoms of these pots. And that's because I built this little ledge right there in a way that it's almost, I mean, it is by design. It's so that I can take a sponge and just sponge right off. And so that the sponge is going to work right off of that edge. And it's not going to, it'll be a nice gradual taper off that edge. And then the glaze will hopefully fit flush. Hopefully we'll get a little bit of movement. And with this firing tonight, we're going to do little bit of an experiment with the glazing schedule, the glaze firing schedule. And we'll do a little bit longer hold and hopefully get a little more movement in our glaze. And then we'll compare that with the firing we just did. It's pretty simple. I'm just getting these glaze tongs and just dipping right in. And then I'm just gonna wait. You'll notice the sheen kind of evaporates away. And what's happening is that bisqueware is just soaking up all the moisture. This is a cool piece. I like that. Like that texture. So right now in this bucket, it's the sapphire blue. So that looks to be pretty good. Now I think we'll decant a little bit from our big bucket. Hope I can't remember if this glaze is what I think it is. It looks a little bit different. It's too bad you can't taste it and tell the difference. We'll just go with it. And I'm kind of obsessive about being real clean with glazes. At the start of every glaze session, I like to scrape my buckets, get all the crap, get all the chunks back in there before I start really mixing things. I really hate when the glaze like builds up and you get this like crust lining in the bucket, because that inevitably will flake off back in and then you'll get a chunky glaze. And ain't nobody want no chunky glaze. Ain't got no time for that. Okay, so we're gonna do a liner, which is to line the inside of these cups. We're gonna do this blue glaze. I'm gonna try real hard not to spill any of that. Nice. It's not the end of the world, but it just helps not to spill glaze on the outside. So we're gonna have a blue. And then we're gonna do some other stuff on the outside. I don't know yet. And you might notice that as I pour this out, I'm spinning the cup, and so that I get a nice, even thickness. I noticed on this one, you might be able to pick up on this. See where it's got these kind of drips? I don't know if you can tell. See those really subtle differences? There are glazes in ceramics where you really can't tell, but then there are other glazes in ceramics that are just ultra sensitive to thickness. And those drips will just stand out. I'm trying to look for one that's just like really obvious where the drips are. I'm not really seeing any at the moment. I mean, this one kind of. That piece is kind of, you see where it's thicker over there, and then kind of thinner. And then that might have been like a fingerprint or something. I just read. I just read your comment, Pony, about there's something in the gravy. And then I just read your comment too, Ramen, that I should have labeled it. I should have. These potters, they're just so unreliable. Okay, where is my syringe? Here it is. Okay, one of the many uses for these syringes, lining tiny little pots. And I'm actually gonna go, this is our base glaze right here, and I wanna really water this down to get a nice thin layer. That's a trick, potentially a trick for lining enclosed forms, which is something you want to do. You always want to line the insides of pots, even if you aren't really going to see it. Like this piece right here, we'll probably never see the glaze on the inside. But if you have this big, thick glaze layer on the outside and no glaze on the inside, the glaze can actually rip it apart. There can be so much surface tension on the outside that it can actually pull the piece apart. which is not something I'm interested in. So it's a really good idea just to make like a really thinned out glaze. Which is what we got there. And that's even a little bit too thin. So I'll mix some of that, some of the normal viscosity. Pull up that, and then actually use the syringe to mix that, and then find a cup to dump this out in. There we go. That one's clean enough. There we go. So get a real nice lining on the inside of that glaze. Speaking of drips, the last one has a drip from the edge. Oh, this cup right there? Yeah, okay. Good call. What we can do, what I like to do, is get one of these metal ribs, and just so I don't have to use a sponge, and sponge that piece, which can cause, I don't know, an uneven look. I can use a metal rib, and I can scrape that, and thus I'm not adding any extra moisture to this piece. So now that's a good way to remove that excess glaze on that edge, and now that drip isn't going to be obvious. Good call, Ramen. Thanks. And then I'm just swishing that glaze around on the inside of this little guy. And then that spin move can really help to keep the glaze moving and to keep that glaze from spilling back. So I added a little bit of glaze. And when I say spilling back, it's just like dripping back on itself and leaving kind of an area of uneven. Which again, can be really obvious on some glazes, but then other glazes, like a Chino, you'll never tell. There's a lot of clear glazes. An ash glaze, drips don't matter. You can be pretty sloppy with the glaze application on ash glazes. That's a good question, Raman. You asked, can you glaze over a piece that's already been glaze fired? You can, absolutely. And the trick, those are usually called refires. And the trick to refires is that in the glaze firing that you put it back into, you want to go nice and slow on the preheating, and you want to heat that piece up pretty slowly. It's about, I don't know, I have about a half and half success rate. You know, areas where I miss a glaze. Like, here's a perfect example of a piece that I would consider reglazing. Right? You see how, it's a nice cup, it's a nice form, but there's that one area where the glaze crawled. Glaze kind of peeled back on itself. And that's not really working for me. So what I would do if I were to refire this is I would start by putting a really thick layer of these original glazes on that, and then I would dry it out, probably use my blowtorch and dry it, and then I would go in and spray glaze over the top. The real trick to refiring is to get the glaze thick enough to actually do something, right? To build up a thick enough glaze layer to actually stick to the piece without it all dripping. Because the advantage of having bisqueware is that this bisqueware is more or less a sponge. You can see it pulling out water, sucking out water from that glaze. And so as soon as the glaze touches the bisqueware, it's already drying out, and that glaze dries out really, really quick. But when you're glazing a piece that's already been fired, you don't get that wicking sponge action. And so the glaze just has to dry out kind of naturally. So that's when I usually like to use the torch. It's unbelievable how much bisqueware absorbs, how much moisture. It's very, very obvious the difference when you try and glaze a bunch of pots that have already been fired. This little guy has a tiny, tiny, tiny little opening. That's like totally the water dropper. You see that? The suction. You have to shake it to empty it. Well, that one works. That's pretty neat. My water dropper actually drops water in drops. Okay. So, how do we want to do this? I think that's good for sort of the basic glaze. Just dump that back in there. And then we're going to dump this back into the blue and hope to God that we didn't just contaminate like a $50 bucket of glaze. Or who knows? Maybe we just made it better. If it wasn't obvious before, it should be now. This is why I'm not a scientist. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I like to dip my toes into the world of science, but I am not systematic enough. I'll be really rigorous and really scientific like 90% of the time, and then I'll just get lazy or creative and step outside. Step outside the rules. So, back to the pink and blue piece. So we want to figure out what part of this we want pink, and then what part we want blue. I mean, we could do pink handle, pink overlap. We could do blue handle, blue overlap, then pink. Or we could go pink on the inside, blue on the outside, blue on the outside, pink on the inside. I think blue overlapping, okay, top blue, bottom pink. I like it. I like it. And what if, I don't even know if I have any wax resist. I'm gonna have to dig around and see if I can find some wax resist, because I think it would be cool to take and make sort of a drip pattern with the blue, and the bottom will be that pink. So the top is going to be blue, and then the bottom will be pink, and then the whole inside will be blue. So, man, I need some wax resist. I wish at one point I had some latex resist. Well, I don't have any wax resist, but what we can do is use some of this, which I have. This is shellac, obviously. And yeah, I can brush the pink on the bottom and then shellac it and then dip it into the blue. because I think the blue is going to be much more obvious. Butter resist? Is that a thing? Ramen, are you dropping some knowledge, some glaze tips that I don't even know? We're gonna start ramen doodle glaze tip number 1. Melt some butter and use that as resist. I don't see why it wouldn't work. It's just really a question of it being durable enough to withstand the sponging after you dip it. Hello, welcome back. Francie, thanks for the follow. Welcome to the Husky Ranch. All right. Oh, Arts Plunge. That just got me thinking we can use masking tape. Of course. Of course. Arts Plunge, you're like the MVP of the stream. 2 days running. Of course. We're going to use masking tape. Masking tape right here. I have a roll of this, and we'll just mask it off. That. Where would we be without scotch? But we're going to come back to that. And what we'll do is I'll go with an X-Acto blade and cut all that out. Yes, yes, yes. And then I can probably pour. Yep. You will see, Arts Plunge. You will see. Okay, I'm gonna take a bathroom break, and then when we get back, we're gonna do the drawing for the subscribers. We've got 11 subscribers at the moment, and so we're gonna do a random drawing, and then that subscriber is gonna get their own choice of a magnet or a shell dish. Look at that. Okay, that's going to be in 3 minutes. So, I will be right back. So let's do a let's share the browser window. There we go. Display capture. Move that up like that. Sure. Okay. Anybody else want to subscribe before we do this? You got about 10 seconds. All right. And here you see, let me make sure. Okay. Looks like you guys can see this. Pony Arts Plunge, Ben Rody, Jackie Wyoming, Spider Mania, Earth Windy Fire, Ramen Doodle, Aqua Funkalistic Booty Whap, Cadaverous, Chasey Fur, and all that sass. Okay, here we go. Pick a random name. Who's it gonna be? This website is terrible. The winner is Ramen Doodle, who has been a subscriber since 06/03/2020. All right. Congratulations, Ramen Doodle. Can you pass? Sure, you can pass. Should we roll it again? Oh no. Don't want a magnet? Don't want a shell dish? All right. Ramen is passing. Let's roll it again. And we'll go ahead. Take Ramen, chop you out. All right, here we go. Pick a random name. And who's it gonna be? The winner is Paige. Nice. So I will, too much pressure? Too much spotlight? Well, cadaverous it is. So there we go. So I will reach out to cadaverous. Let's see, is she streaming right now? Looks like Paige Harris is streaming right now. All right, so there's the giveaway. So let's hide that and get back to glazing. Show you guys this masking tape, which makes me happy that I don't have to use shellac. Excellent. And maybe I will. Maybe I'll put some shellac over the pink on the bottom. Tsukikaze. I don't have Nightbot set up for my store yet, but it is right there. And there's some pretty cool little magnets and shell dishes. All kinds of stuff on there. Okay, back to it. So, put my gloves back on. Arts Plunge shellac will burn off at about, shellac actually burns off at about 450 degrees, give or take. And it burns off pretty cleanly, I would say. And it is a little bit fumy. It can be, especially if you have a whole kiln full of gnarly shellac, but it's actually a really nice technique. So let me show you. So what I'm gonna do is go around and just take masking tape. The blue painter's tape, in my experience, works a little bit better because it tends to peel off a little bit cleaner. And the blue tape tends to also last a little bit longer. It has like a longer shelf life, I think. But what I did was I went around with my pencil, and you can even see through the masking tape that pencil line is. And I don't have to follow that pencil line exactly, because it's all kind of relative anyways. And actually, I think I want to have that drip come up on the handle. So next, now that I've got that basic line, I'll go and give just a little more wiggle room. So I'll cover up just a little bit higher on the piece, just so that I don't have to be quite so careful. Give myself some extra. Okay, so you can see there's all the masking tape. Now let me go find a real sharp razor blade. So I just had the idea, since I'm going to be shipping Cadaverous a piece, maybe I should ship her some glaze. Maybe we could get a Twitch creative collaboration going. All right, now what I'm going to do, and I'll try and do this on camera as best as I can, is I'm going to trace that line that I just did. If I had a nice sharp X-Acto blade, that would really be ideal for this. But at the moment, I don't have one of those. And so I'm just doing this kind of drip pattern. Okay, so there I just took my razor blade and traced over that line that I drew. And you might even be able to see it. Now I'm going to remove the tape on the lower half, because the lower half is going to be and you can see areas where I followed the line and areas where I didn't. Tape. Peeled back a little bit. There we go. So now we have a nice drip pattern. And what's going to happen is that the glaze is going to soak in to the bisqueware, and this masking tape is going to be the resist. Okay. So, where's number 10? 10. Is that right? No, that's not. 10. There's number 10. Okay. And so I'm just going to go right over the tape. And I'm going to do a whole bunch of small, thin coats. And if I do more layers, hopefully, let me just thin this glaze down a little bit more. Doing more thinner coats will hopefully mitigate some of the obvious brush strokes. Hopefully it ends up being a little more of a nicer application. Brushing glaze is really hard. So you can see there's a couple of coats. The pencil line will burn off for sure. So let's go ahead and get some on this bottom ring. There we go. I want it to kind of look, when I'm brushing the glaze, I want to do a bunch of thin layers. I want it to look like skim milk. which is also how I like to apply kiln wash. I like to thin down the kiln wash quite a bit, and then I like to do several layers rather than just doing one big thick coat of kiln wash, because the one big thick coat tends to crack, flake off, whereas doing several thin layers. And that's also what Amico suggests with their underglazes. And so I'm just using my brush to try and get as even of an application as I can. And anywhere that it's obviously thick, just try and kind of spread that out. Okay, then I'll get my sponge, and that's looking really good. I get my sponge and sponge back that foot ring. You can see how it removes that glaze. Art sponge, I didn't mist these down at all, and I didn't wash them because they haven't sat around for very long at all. I'm not particularly worried about it. And I don't know if the camera will be able to capture that, but you can see the glaze is still wet on that masking tape. So what I want to do now is go around with the shellac while that tape is still on there. And hopefully this shellac is still good. Hopefully it's not chunky like gravy. Let's see, do I have a crappy brush? Here's a suitably crappy brush. And I don't need much. If I was really doing this on my own, and you'll be able to see I got a little bit on the handle there, you'll be able to see that the glaze isn't going to want to soak in right there. But if I was really doing this, I would let this shellac dry. For quite a while, or at least a day. Oh, nice. I didn't get it too bad. There's just a tiny little area where the shellac touched the bisqueware. So I think I'm going to be all right. But as I was saying, if I was doing this, you know, if I was doing a bunch of these and this was actually the technique that I was using, I would let that shellac dry overnight at least. You know, I would give it a good 12 hours to really harden. You can see it's already started to soak in to the glaze. So I think it would probably do it right now, but we'll set this piece aside and we'll come back to this at the very end. I forget, how do you thin shellac? Let's read the directions. Easy to apply. Oh, it says it dries in minutes. Easy to apply, dries in minutes. And look, it's an all-natural finish. It's a renewable resource. I like that. Cleanup. Clean wet tools with denatured alcohol or household ammonia. And it says dries to touch in 30 minutes or less. Recoat after 1 hour. Great. I'm going to find some alcohol. Hey, bud. A little bit of alcohol. Clean my crappy brush. That shellac that I had was a flavored variety. It had a little bit of stain in it, so that's why it's that dark color. That looks good. Set that aside. It seems like an opportune time to cash in my rain check. Ramen Doodle used some channel points yesterday to get me a home brew. So I'm going to cash that in, and thank you very much, Ramen Doodle. I'm getting down to the end of my ginger beer and have to brew some more. The salmon berries are ripening up, so I think I'll do cider with, I'll ferment that and brew that, and then I think I'll make a salmonberry syrup and back sweeten with salmonberry. Yeah. Yep, that's the plan. Shellac can be a food glaze? Do you have any more facts on shellac? Give us some shellac facts. Art Splunge. Salmonberry homebrew, that's next. So let's see, we've got the pink pony. Is all kinds of excited about it. So we're gonna brush a layer on this little sweetie. And I don't want to go too thick on this because I actually want to put another glaze over it. And what I'll actually do is I will go thick, and then I'll show you what I'm going to do. This can be a technique that you can use on pieces that have a lot of texture. You can brush a glaze on, pour a glaze or dip a glaze, and then let it dry. So I'll set it down, let it dry, and we'll do this one with the bubblegum pink. While that piece is drying there. Are you still reading the Wikipedia, Art Splunge? You got some shellac facts? Or anyone else for that matter? What's the wood seal that's like made out of bugs? Is it shellac? Is it made out of like insect shells, like beetle shells or something? Or is that Japanese lacquerware? Yeah, bug resin. Cool. That's what I thought, but I didn't want to sound really stupid. So this one is going to totally look like chewed up bubblegum on the outside. It's going to be amazing. Where's Mr. Blowtorch? Okay, so then we're gonna let that one dry out for a little bit. And we'll go back to this little sweetie. And I'm gonna use my sponge and lightly go over this and remove the glaze from all the high spots. And this works well if you have a pretty dry sponge. You want to have a little bit of water, but not too much. And when you do this with oxides, it's much more obvious. It's real hard to see that pink glaze remaining in those cracks. But it is. So I'll have areas where there's a pink glaze. And the more patient you are, the better. So you can see, it's almost like an inlay. Polyester kit, Cadaverous. Paige won the giveaway. And I think I'm gonna send her some glaze too. Maybe I'll send her some of my Celadon glaze. What cone does she fire? Does she do 04 or does she do cone 6? That's right, Ramen actually won it the first time. But then he got shy. So that's cool. And we could even fire that and that glaze. It would be like little pink stripes. But I want to go over it. I think I want to go over it with our bright purple. Do one layer of purple over the top. Because why not? Let's see, this might even be small enough where I could just dip it. Perfect! Ha ha ha! Ramen, yes, an electric kiln can definitely go to cone 10. I fire my big electric kiln all the way up to cone 10. As long as you've got halfway decent kiln elements. Right, so that one's done. We're gonna let the mugs just be what they're gonna be. They're just gonna be the blue. They'll be fairly straightforward. How about this cup? We'll do, yeah, we'll go purple under the blue. So hopefully we'll get a nice overlap between the purple and the blue. Hopefully we'll get some glaze action. Jackie, Wyoming with the bits. Thanks, Jackie. Did you particularly like this glaze combination, the purple with the blue over the top? Did I make a good decision here? Okay, and then you see how as I'm brushing this on, you see how I've got uneven layer? I'm gonna go around with this brush and just even that out. Because on a cup, that is really the most obvious surface. And by obvious, I mean that's kind of the first thing your eye goes to. And there's nothing worse than having just a really amazing glaze on the outside, and then you get to the edge, and the edge is not nice. You know, you think about how you interact with your cup, and it's really a pretty intimate object. I mean, you put your mouth all over it, you kiss it, pretty much. So there's nothing worse than having a dirty lip to kiss. So you see I went around and fixed that edge. So we should have a really nice, should have a really interesting little edge right there. And thanks for the bits and thanks for the compliment, Jackie, Wyoming. I appreciate that. I like this cup too. It's gonna be a nice one. We'll maybe do a design, or maybe not. Maybe we'll just go over it with the blue. And if we want a trick that we can use to get some big fat glaze drips, is to actually just build up the glaze and build up this line. And see how I'm using the tip of my brush to just slowly work that wet glaze. And as I'm holding the brush over the bisqueware, there's a capillary. There's a capillary action. The bisque is actually slowly sucking the glaze out of my brush. And gravity. And see how I'm getting that ridge of glaze built up? That's how I'll do drips of glaze. And you can kind of dab it like that. Oh, and this is the purple glaze that we wanted the copper specks in, wasn't it? Okay, let's do that on the other cup. I'll show you that. I have to go find some copper sand. Let's finish this. Just about all the way around. So then if I was better with a brush, I could even go in with shellac and take the shellac and go around that edge, and then I could do a second glaze. Or I could put like the bubble gum or an underglaze or something. Contrasting glaze, if I wanted. Or if I had some wax resist would really be ideal. But now I'm going to go in and I'm going to feather out that thickness. You see how I've got those thick bumps? I'm going to feather those out now. Smooth that out so it's so it's not going to be like a real obvious line. Now you can start to see I'm actually getting that glaze layer pretty built up. Starting to be a kind of textural component to that. Maybe I should go in and mask that off. Maybe I will. Let's see. Let's see what happens. Let's do the copper on this. And that's pretty straightforward. So I have here this ground up copper material, okay? This chunk, this rock right here, is copper ore, and I prospected this out in Utah. And here, let me show off this big chunk of copper ore. This stuff is actually called chrysocolla. Look at that. Isn't that a beautiful rock? This thing is heavy too. But it's that green, that bright green color from the copper. But anyways, long story short, take this rock, crush it up, pound it up with a hammer, and then take it and run it through sieves, and then classify or pull out all the varying size particles. And this is kind of the, I think it's 20 mesh to 60 mesh. So it's like a really coarse beach sand.
This is, excuse me, a damn fine cup of coffee.
Here's a bowl. This is the purple and the black glaze mixed together. It's pretty hot. Pretty hot glaze. So I'm going to take this sand, this green sand, this copper sand, right? And we're just going to dump some, whoa, too much. Just going to dump that in the bowl. Okay, and now we're just going to dump glaze on top of it. I'm just going to use my brush to mix it up.
Don't plan it, don't wait for it, just let it happen.
And it's going to be chunky, chunky monkey. There's something in the gravy.
Hot black coffee, like this, like Christmas.
Right? See how those bits, those big chunks, are sticking? Now there's a viscosity thing, and the thicker the glaze is, the more that those particles will stay in suspension, the copper particles. And if I want to increase the viscosity of my glaze, I can add Epsom salt to it. I don't know if I have Epsom salt down here at the moment. But check this out. I got my copper all added in there. Let's see if we can zoom in. So much stuff. There we go. So the trick to doing this is to just constantly keep stirring the glaze. And now you see those thick chunks, chunky monkey, all those little spots and specks. Once it's fired, it's going to look like that. Kind of already looks like that, doesn't it? And at cone 6, we'll see exactly how much that's going to melt and move. It tends to be a cone 10, a high temperature phenomena that really looks good, that really kind of blushes. It really does the awesome big blue halos like that guy. And this is a soda fired piece, but you see how you get those big blue polka dots. That's what the pieces look like before. Oops, there we go. That's sweet. I forgot how much fun it was to brush on glazes when they got big chunks of crap in them. Okay. Now on this particular piece, I'm actually going to go over this purple glaze with a mixture of well, we're just going to go over it with the really thinned down blue. That's what I'm going to go over it with. And sorry, I haven't read any comments here. I just want to finish this up and get this piece drying.
Here we are, back in the hot, muggy streets of New York.
And then on this one, what I'll do is go in, I want to do an underglaze on the bottom. And I'm going to see how good my brush skills are. I'll just freehand it. Okay, so there's the blue over the top. And then I'm gonna go in with underglaze and cover up all this clay right there. Right, so that one, making some progress. And hopefully we can wrap up here. We'll glaze these last 3 bowls. In my electric kilns, Art Sponge, you asked if I make any decisions about where the piece is. Maybe if I had that copper piece next to another one without any of that stuff, if I wanted some of the copper to kind of blush and get like a copper haze next to it. You can see this piece had a white glaze on the inside. You see how the copper is sort of kissing it. It gets that little subtle blush. I had a bright white pot or a glaze that was really susceptible to blushing copper. I could put that next to a piece with all kinds of copper sand in it, and that might influence it, change it around a little bit. Oh yeah. Since I don't want to get any of those copper chunks in my big glaze bucket, do that. Okay. We'll actually mix the blue and the purple together with our copper sand. Man, I wish I had some Epsom salts down here right now. This is our pink piece. So let's do our little sweetie. This will be real subtle. It won't be quite so crusty, quite so crazy. And I'm kind of dappling this glaze. When I added that blue, it really thinned it down. Okay, so you can see that's going to be, it's a mixture of the purple and the blue, and that's going to have little copper speckles in it. Should be pretty cool. Right. Let's do, let's see. I think we can pour. All right, boys and girls, do not try this at home. Sort of. Except all the good stuff stayed at the bottom. Let's add some of the yellow. I love having a bunch of test glazes sitting around in the studio, especially when I'm freestyling with my glazes like this. Yeah! Yellow over purple with green chunks. Heck yeah. All right. What was my rule? What number was it the other day? So don't pour something in till you know where you're going to pour it out. I just about made the mistake. Trying to think of how I'm going to dump this. I should just wait. Just wait. Don't be impatient. Okay, now we've got the purple plus the blue. Now we're gonna add that into the yellow. Now we're in uncharted territory. Who knows what that's gonna be? Some sort of a weird green. And that's looking pretty cool. That's like a nice distribution. That's the word. That's a nice distribution of the chunks. Okay, let's go back to, let's use this one and go this concoction that is. Let's use this concoction on this little baby. All right, left-hand glazing. Nice. Done. Okay. Don't I need to get ready for dinner? No, my fiance, I went and did the shopping today. And my fiance is gonna cook dinner tonight. Tacos are on the menu. And I actually didn't get in that much trouble yesterday for being late to pick her up. She was understanding. She's the best. Okay. We have got to put liners in the bowls. So we've got our pink. So we've got Bazooka Bubblegum Pink on the outside. Let's what should we do? What should we do here? Should we go the crazy bubblegum pink with the copper chunks? Should we? Should we do it? Let's do it. Let's make a unfood safe bowl. If I'm making functional pottery, I don't put these copper chunks on the inside. But we're gonna make a decorative use only piece. And I just sprayed a bunch of water. This copper material is so heavy that it just kind of stays in the bottom. So I'm gonna wash the glaze off of those. And we're gonna add our bubble gum, which is number 10. Bazooka bubble gum. Meet copper sand. I don't even know what that is anymore. Forgot. Let's sieve it. Let's remove all the copper sand pieces. And then let's add some green. There we go. That's nice. Ooh, that's a nice turquoise. It'll probably end up being. It'll probably be that color. Copper is food safe. I mean, there's pretty relatively high thresholds of copper in food safety, glaze safety. Let's add some blue to this. It's looking a little too strong. Most of the time, though, it's completely irrelevant because all the copper is bound up in a glass matrix. It's all kind of sealed in to a glass layer in ceramic glazes, and it's essentially completely impervious to leaching. Glazes that are really problematic tend to be really matte surfaces. So, you know, this bubblegum pink glaze, for example, that might be a leacher. But we'll do an experiment where we test for leaching. Just put a ledge of lime or lemon on the piece and see if it changes color. Cool. It's gonna be a cool piece. I'm absolutely gonna have to go back and watch the stream to figure out what the heck I did. On all these pieces. Oh! I guess that one wanted to be pink. Flew out of my hand. All right. So that one's done. That one wanted to be the pink over the turquoise. Had to be. Ooh, is Pink Pony still in the channel? Still watching? This is gonna be Bazooka Bubblegum Pink with copper speckles. Should be pretty rad. Wow, it's so strange to be brushing this copper sand on the inside. I've never done it. Never done it like this. Man, it is so awesome to have a small kiln because it's like I didn't get to any of my test tiles, but it doesn't matter. I can just fire it anyways and put the test tiles in the next one. I don't have to worry about being super, super, ultra efficient. We'll just fire these pots anyways. Cool. It's gonna be a chunky, coppery, bubblegum pink. Awesome. Okay, I think I'd better go put the dog door up. I think my fiance is going to be home real soon. Let's take a quick intermission. I'll be back in 1 minute. All right. Duke is safely secured. No dinner yet. We tend to eat pretty late. Let's see. So this one, was that green? That's pink. Okay, so let's take some turquoise. Let's add it to some of the foamy alligator color. Then we'll do a little bit of yellow. And then we'll do some blue. There we go. And I'm actually not even gonna swirl that around. I'm gonna just pour it straight in. We'll see if that makes any difference. Wonder if it'll be like a paint swirl. Painting. Oh, I hate that. That big drip right there. Vince, what's happening, man? How big are the coffee mugs I've got? So the ones on my website are this size. They're like a 12 ounce. That's a nice little oil spot. Kind of a mahogany glaze. In these, set that piece down. Okay. So like a commercial mug, like this, isn't this cup rad? I got this at a museum in Korea. The Seoul National Museum. It's got the cat. I freaking love this cup so much. But yeah, this is like a commercial from a website or something. And then mine right next to it. They actually hold about the same amount. And then the pieces that I'm working on right now are gonna be a little bit smaller. So this is gonna shrink. And so these will be, I don't know, in the 10 ounce range, sort of like a diner mug. I really like the diner mug size. I have in the past made bigger ones. Like that's probably 14 ounces, give or take, something like that. The moving on up cup, up arrows. Here's one I didn't make. This is one of my favorite potters. Her name is Lorna Meaden. Here's a really cool tall mug. How about that handle? This thing is so sweet. Yeah, I never worry about being overly clean when I'm glazing, especially not when I'm streaming. But after this, like, I wouldn't just make another mess on top of this mess. All right, that's a nice green color. I hope it stays that way. It'd be cool with a nice soft green color like that. Nice leaf green. Okay, so let's take stock here. We've got the blue mugs. I'm going to go ahead and scrape the glaze off the bottom. You can make the glaze cleanup job go by really quick. Rather than just using a sponge to do the whole bottom, you can use that metal scraper and scrape away most of the glaze and then just hit it with the sponge. That's how I like to remove the glaze off the feet. And then I've got my stamp there on the bottom. And I'll leave that glazed in that little indention. So that one's ready. Oh, before we wrap up the stream, here we go. So this is our shellacked piece. Okay, so we've got the tape. Now we're going to peel away. I'm going to take off my gloves for this. Try not to dump all those little bits. Pretty good. The shellac hardened in its pulling off the tape. I probably should have did this right away, actually. I should have done this while you can see the shellac is sticking and it's pulling some of the dried glaze off. But yeah, it's okay. So not that bad, not that amazing. And yeah, the shellac is going to burn off. Okay, and then here's my Celadon blue glaze. And this one I actually am gonna get the drill going. There we go. Didn't want to have you guys listening to all that ruckus. So I'm just going to pour this into a smaller bucket. And it's got a lot of chunks in it too, so I'll pull out my little glaze sieve. It's not a bad idea, too, to go through periodically and sieve your glazes. It's always amazing the stuff that's left over. In a sieve. From shop glazes. And because this one is so chunky, I want to get the chunks out. Dog hair. Duke the Puke, contributing to ceramics here at the Husky Ranch. He's such a good boy, though. Where did my whisk? There it is. Okay. So now, remember the coffee pour over? We're going to do juicy blue on top and then the pink on the bottom. And so the pink is already there. And it's not quite rolling off the shellac. See how it's kind of sticking a little bit? But what should happen is that I should be able to go in with the sponge, yeah. And now I can go in, because I shellacked, right there, you can see my sponge just touched the glaze. See how it removed the glaze, but it didn't remove the pink underneath the shellac? Just need to let that dry for a second. And then I can go in with a brush and kind of clean up all that area. But that's pretty good for the shellac. As good as wax resist would be. Okay, so now it's dried. So I'll just sponge that back towards the blue. Nice. So then I missed a few spots with the glaze. We didn't quite get there. Yes, the glaze dries super fast. I mean, that's on there. So now I'm gonna go in and just build up the glaze strips. Ooh, something happened. Sisaki, thanks for the follow. Heck yeah. Oh, Vince, Chemexes are awesome. That's like the one coffee apparatus that I don't own. I dated somebody that had one, and it was awesome. I use a French press most of the time, but occasionally I'll get bored with that and want something new, something different. So I'll use like a coffee machine or one of these pour overs. And what I'm doing right now is just building in some drips because I want the transition zone to really, I want the blue to bleed over the pink quite a bit. And this Celadon glaze, I don't know that I've talked about it too much on stream, but I formulated this Celadon glaze to be able to be really, really thick, like really, really thick. All the ball clay inside of it allows it to just be super thick and not drip too much. If you overfire it, it drips a lot and it'll run. And then one of my advanced moves is to basically bisque fire the clay that I put inside of it so that it doesn't shrink. And that's another reason why this glaze in particular dries so fast, is because it's got a bunch of non-plastic material in it. And that allows me, again, to just build it up like kind of crazy thick to get all those big fat drips and curls of glaze, which I absolutely love. So I am just moving around and see how I'm just laying on that glaze towards the bottom, and then I feather it backwards. So I get a bunch of glaze on my brush and then tilt the brush forward and get that big drip. And then I take that drip and just sort of work it, and I keep pointing my brush down and just keep building up that drip. And as I'm doing that, it's just soaking in. Then I feather that back. So there we go. I'm gonna go ahead and glaze the foot. Down there. And then we'll just finish up all the little details, and that's gonna be it for the stream tonight. Ramen Doodle has got me thinking about dinner. And it looks like I'm behind on chat. I will read your messages here in a second, guys. Okay, so I'm gonna lay that in there, and then I can just come around with this sponge, clean that up. Just like that. And I have to have an unglazed surface to set it inside of the kiln. If I were to leave that glaze on there and put it in the kiln, that glaze would melt to the kiln shelf. And it would become one with the kiln, and I don't want that. And so a potter's trick is to take basically aluminum powder and put it on the kiln shelves. So you have a layer that can flake off if you do have a glaze that goes a little too crazy. So I'm going in with this pink and just coming right up to the edge. We'll see if that's a good idea or a bad idea tomorrow. Hopefully, with the hold on the kiln, this glaze is going to move and it's going to push down. And hopefully it pushes right into that pink glaze. Looks pretty good, looks pretty good. All right, what are you guys talking about over here? So yeah, thanks for the follow, and hello, Sisaki. Really glad to have you. Potters to watch in 2016. Yeah, that was quite a while ago. That was when I was still in grad school. When that article was written. That got me somewhere, actually. Oh, Amber Celadon. Good to see you. No sounds? I better chime in. And I'm waiting on glaze to dry over there at the moment. Yeah, Vince, that's why you always see on the bottoms of pots an unglazed area, because it's got to sit on something inside of the kiln. And each time you load a kiln, you stack up shelves and furniture, and you can stack it in different orientations each time. You know, you use bricks as posts, and then you set the shelves on top, and then another brick, and then you just kind of build a stack each time inside of the kiln. So there you go. Okay. The next thing, let's go ahead and start getting these pots ready. So that one, each time I go to load a glaze kiln, I always sort of push all the glazed work one way, and then I like to find a board or something, and then I always double check each piece. And the check that I do is make sure there is absolutely no glaze on the bottom. Make sure there's no chips in the glaze, make sure there's no runs, make sure it's ready to roll. And then when it's ready to get loaded inside of the kiln, then it will go onto a board. Oh, Lisa's home. Okay, so let's zoom out. Oh. Didn't want to do that. Video capture device.
And on the count of three.
There we go. We're back. Sorry, I deleted my video source. What an OBS noob. There we are. See you later, Vince. Thanks for stopping by. We will see you soon. All right. Yep, definitely time to start wrapping up. I'll probably have to do a little bit of this on stream, or off stream, rather. So yeah, there's no way I'll be able to finish everything. But just to recap, we have the 4 mugs. They all have the blue, the sapphire blue glaze, right? So they're going to come out looking a lot like that. This glaze, that greenish break on the edge. There we go. Almost focus, almost focus. There you go. Come on, Logitech. Help me, Logitech. You're my only hope. Anyway, got those, and then we've got the 6 little vase babies, all various things. We've got the 3 little bowls. These guys are all ready. Nope, that one's not ready. Then we got the 2 cups. On this one, this is the purple glaze. I'm gonna come in with a orange underglaze, and I'm gonna fill in this clay area on that one, because I want the purple drips coming down into the orange. Here we've got, I don't even remember, some combination. I think this was the purple with the speckles, right? So hopefully that one is gonna look kind of like that, something like that. We'll see, maybe so. And then, yeah, we've got the little bowls. Who knows? I've already forgot what they're going to be exactly. I might dip a few test tiles after dinner and get our little baby scut loaded. It's that little kiln in the back right there, that little baby. We're going to load that up and fire it again. We've still got a huge ware cart full of pottery that we're going to glaze throughout the week. So we'll be looking at these pots tomorrow on stream. So yeah, congratulations to Ramen Doodle, who won the subscriber giveaway and then relinquished his prize to Cadabras, who's another really awesome Twitch streamer. So she's going to get her choice of one of the pieces on my website. Thanks everybody else for tuning in, for participating in chat. Always great to see you. Hope to see you back for tomorrow. Where are we going? How many dragons is who we are going to raid? Ramen Doodle. Cannot thank you enough for answering people's questions, for redeeming those channel points, for being a great presence. Arts Plunge, MVP of the stream. Yep. Love you guys. I will see you soon. Let's go check out How Many Dragons in 7 seconds. All right, guys. Take care.